the fact is, all that's going to do is empower the establishment here in which we operate to jam through an omnibus spending bill right before Christmas. That's what will happen. That's what happens every year. And then the question will be, what is the check against that? Well, the check against that is right here. The check against that is whether or not we would support it or not. And so the question is, if you got something kicking in on January 1, that's 3 months after the fiscal year ends, as the break of a 1% reduction, which, by the way, would simply be a $15 billion cut, which is basically what we're talking about in this supposed caps deal governing what we're doing. The fact is, this is a $4 trillion increase with no teeth. None. We're still going to come back and have an appropriations battle. The likelihood of getting appropriations bills passed by October 31st, September 30th, October 31st, November 30th are pretty slim based on past history, either side of the aisle. But we'll go through the process. Hopefully we'll navigate through it. But if we don't, the fact is there will almost certainly be an omnibus effort. And then there'll just be a debate about who is the big winner. And we all know who the big winner will be. Government, not the American people. We're not going to reduce spending through this deal unless we actually stand up and reduce spending. It'll be on us to choose to. But this deal isn't going to reduce spending, even though everybody's going around saying it will. And this deal isn't going to do anything but guarantee that in 2 years, actually 18 months, Mr. Massey's clock that he wears on his jacket is going to say 36 trillion. The last point that I'll make is just, I've talked about the statement of administration policy, is there's a significant number of folks who have been out talking about this bill. And I would just note that whether you've got Biden's economic advisor, Ramanurti, I think, due respect to pronouncing it correctly, this, quote, protects all the key pieces of legislation that the president signed into law in the last 2 years and preserves remarkable progressive accomplishments, end quote. I could go down a list of other quotes. The ever-important policy genius, Keith Olbermann, Biden has still kicked McCarthy's butt. Now he must also kick Joe Manchin's butt and his pipeline out of the debt deal. Well, my friend from Texas, I think, has an amendment along those lines, Mr. Self. Look, we ought to do better. The Limit, Save, Grow Act was a responsible approach to actually reduce spending, to actually change the way this town works. And with all due respect to my Democrat colleagues, happy to have a conversation anywhere, anytime with any of my Democratic colleagues about what we want to do to deal with our fiscal problems. But this was a small down payment, even in the Limit, Save, Grow Act. This doesn't represent any material change in the direction of where this country is going in terms of spending. A massive increase of debt was sort of a blip on the radar. But even the Limit, Save, Grow Act is just nibbling around the edges of what needs to be done. I don't understand how my colleagues can go to the steps of the Capitol and have all these groups from their middle school and elementary school and high school and talk to them about all the future of this country and where we're headed, when each and every one of them has a $100,000 debt payment attached to them. It's extraordinary. I think the American people demand more from us. Somebody said in here that things in here around here should not be decided by one person in a room. Well, I agree. I think part of the things that were working well for 4 or 5 months around here was a greater amount of collaboration. You know, when deals are cut, as they were this weekend, the Rules Committee does provide a function that I interpret slightly differently than my friend from Kentucky. We're also the filter, not unlike, say, the Calendars Committee in the Texas legislature, of making sure that what gets to the floor is not something that steamrolls the American people, because the defense establishment in this town and those that wish to continue to spend money for every government program under the sun, as has been happening throughout my entire life watching it, there is an important role here to defend the American people against what this town does to them. Because this town does it to them every single year. So we got some work to do, and unless I see some amendments come through that improve this bill, I've got strong concerns. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentleman.